Peace, family. This is Tariq. Welcome back again for another day, another episode of Knowledge Corner. All right, today's insight: say yeah to God. Say yeah to God. I get this from the insight song for today is "Say Yeah" by the Commodores. This is off of their Natural High album that was released on May 1st of 1978. If you've ever heard the song Say Yeah, you know the song is about a man wanting a woman to be his woman, to be his lady. So he's asking her to say yeah, to, being my woman. That also kind of reminds me of, when I was in elementary school, when, you used to write the little notes to, a little girl that you like. You would ask her, say yes if you like me, say no if you don't, had the little check mark, thing in there. But one of my favorite Commodore songs, but the part of the song that resonated with me that we're going to focus on today is when, Lionel says, I've got my life to share. When I think of that, him saying, I've got my life to share, it reminds me of being in church, as a kid and hearing a lot of testimony from people. And the first thing they always say is giving honor to God, who's the head of my life. And as I'm thinking, that is something that we want. We want God to be the head of our lives. But how do we do that? The first thing you would have to do is allow God in your heart. I remember as a kindergartner, I went to a Christian, Baptist Christian school for kindergarten. And I learned a lot more about Christianity and spirituality and everything that one year I was at that school that I've actually taken through the course of my life, since then. And one thing I remember my teacher saying is, you have to allow God in your heart. And she would tell us, in order for God to work the miracles in your life, you have to allow him into your heart. And once you allow him into your heart, everything will happen the way it's supposed to happen. So just say yeah to God being in your life. We all have our paths that we take. And depending on where you are on your path will determine the amount of presence you will feel from God in your life. Where I am right now, I totally feel God being in my life. Everything that I do, is to revere the love that I have for my Lord and Savior. And I think a lot of us get to that point, the more struggle that we go through. And if you're able to see the struggle for what it is and for not what it looks like on face value, then you understand why God is in your life and why you have your life to share with God. But also your life is to share with the world. Your testimony is here to share with the world. So take this video as my testimony. Take this as me saying, I'm giving honor to God, who is the head of my life, because he is the head of my life. He's always been the head of my life, even though There were times that I didn't realize he was the head of my life. He's always been. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. Again, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. One thing about us as humans, a lot of us assume things. And you know what they say about someone who assumes, they make an ass of themselves. So when I read this, it's giving me that I'm assuming that I understand how God works. And I can truly say I don't. They say the Lord works in mysterious ways. So I'm not leaning on my understanding of how I see things. I'm taking that away. I'm stripping my so-called understanding of God's law, and I'm allowing God to move in my life. I'm acknowledging that he's in my life. And because I'm doing that, he's directing me the way he needs to. And I think a lot of us are control freaks. We want things to go the way we want them to go. And I'm a firm believer in understanding that sometimes your life is not going to go the way you want it to go. My life has not gone the way I thought it was going to go when I was younger. But I understand that now. And because I understand that my life has its ups and its downs, its twists and its turns, I am more appreciative and grateful for everything God has done for me. Why? Because I had to go through the things that I've gone through in order for me to understand that I don't understand. Sink that in. I understand that I don't understand. Because God is the head of my life. I'm allowing God to take me where he needs me to go. A part of that is me doing what I'm doing. That gives me a sense of purpose, that I am conveying my life and God's message to you. What path has God taken you on? A lot of us go down paths, and we get afraid to go down that path. So we revert back to how we used to do things. I used to do that as well. There was a point in my life where I did not believe that I was going down the path that I needed to go. And I was afraid of what I was looking at in front of me. And because I was afraid of what was in front of me, I reverted back to things that did not suit me, that I had outgrown. But because I wanted that comfort of being where I was, I wasted years of my life because I wanted to be comfort. I wanted to be comfortable. And when you are growing in your faith and when God is really the head of your life, there's going to be points in time in your life where things aren't going to be comfortable. I was talking to my wife last night, and over the last couple months, we have been living in two separate, places. But now she's getting ready to move where I am, because, things have changed, where we are as far as our living, conditions. And I remember her telling me last night that me being by myself is deadly because all I have are my thoughts. And when I start thinking of things, I start overanalyzing things, and I end up getting myself in trouble. And then I sat there and I thought about it. I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. You can't be by yourself because That's the only thing that you're going to do. You're going to overanalyze things. You're going to think that the sky is falling because you're going to have 1,000,001 things going on in your head. And me not being there on a regular, consistent basis, I'm not able to pull you back in. That is the structure of a relationship between a man and a woman. A lot of times, as a husband, I am pulling my wife back in from over analyzing and overthinking things. But that was me at one point in my life. I overanalyzed things. I overthought things. Why? Because I had an understanding that I thought this is how things were supposed to go. But I realize now that I don't understand. So I allow God to show me where I need to go. I acknowledge him as my Lord and Savior. So I'm allowing him to direct me where I need to go. Surah An-Nisa. This is the 4th chapter, 65th verse. But know by the Lord they can have no real faith until they make thee judge in all disputes between them, and find in their souls no resistance against thy decisions, but accept them with the fullest conviction. Everything we do has a negative or positive repercussion to it. You can't have one without the other. There's always going to be a positive and a negative. Chinese say that's the yin and the yang. Because you understand that there's always going to be a yin and a yang, you always want to make sure that you have more positive things going on in your life than you do negative. How do you do that? One, you understand that you, as a person, you have to mentally understand that I'm not in control. Again, that goes back into that sense of control that a lot of us have on our lives. We are not in control. We have a sense of control, but we don't. God is in total control of our lives. And this ayat is pretty much saying that. He is our judge. He is our jury. He's our executioner. But some of us take those matters into our own hands, and then we end up getting ourselves in trouble because we think that we are the big God. We are not. We are little gods. As it says in Psalms 82, verse 6, are ye your gods and children of the Most High? We are little gods. We are not the big God. So we do not have the authority to be judge, jury, and executioner over someone else's life. We don't even have that to be over our own lives. So in order for us to be who we need to be, again, we have to allow God in our lives. We have to allow God to be the head of our lives. So say yeah to God being in your life. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe, and positive energy activates constant elevation. Peace.